Hello and welcome to the Wheel of Crime podcast. This podcast is run by two ladies who play games, mumble profanities, and laugh way too often. Also, this podcast does cover topics of sensitive nature, and as such, listener discretion is advised.
Hello, and welcome back to the Wheel of Crime podcast. My name is Jenn.
My name is Emily, and I feel like every time I do the disclaimer now, I'm just like, and it's just going to be complete gibberish one day, but that's okay. I've accepted that.
That's fine.
It's fine.
The evolution of the disclaimer is part of the reason why people may or may not listen. I don't know.
Maybe they're like, oh god, it's so fast now. You just drag on forever.
That coupled with the music. So, really, we're just making so many improvements around here.
Yeah, we're just making waves in the industry.
Totally.
Right? Oh, well, how has your week been, Jen? Has there been anything kind of kooky and crazy going on?
I don't know. It's been a weird week. I feel like it kind of started off on like a weird note. I don't know. It's just been weird. I've just been feeling off this week. And I think it's also because we're in the middle of a spring storm here that I just am feeling like off. You know, I'm ready for winter to be over and for like sunny, happy days ahead. Like, I keep, for some reason, seeing on my TikTok all these, 6 months to fall. And I love fall. I'm a fall girl. Favorite season. But it kind of is making me dread because I'm like, oh, the summer's, over already, you know?
Yeah, and it's not really funny because it isn't funny, but I'm very much a mid-temperature girly where right now I'm kind of in the same boat where I'm just so tired of winter. And I'm so tired of looking at my window and there always being snow. And, it was literally the first day of spring this Thursday of this week. And that's the first day that the snowstorm hit. So there's 2 feet of snow outside again. And I'm just all, beefed up about it. But then I also am the kind of person where when it's plus 30... I'm inside. I'm like, nah, it's too hot for me. I'm just a sweaty monster. I don't want to be outside. But I'm really trying to work on training myself out of that because of how short our summers are here. Because it's like you said, it's 6 months till fall. And I'm and I'm going to be spending the next 3 months inside anyways because I'm a huge baby. But I am trying to be better.
Yeah, I feel like I'm the same with when it's super hot during the summer. I'm like, oh, it's too hot for me. But I just want, I don't know, it was 17 degrees here on Monday, and it was just, so perfect. It was just, the perfect temperature. It was, warm, and I was wearing my sandals, and life was good. There was no fucking snow.
The Burks came out of retirement. Life was good again.
True. And it was so good. And then now there's so much snow on the ground and it's fucking cold and the roads are icy again. And I feel miserable. I'm really, this is making me really sad actually.
You're is this seasonal depression again? It came back.
It's coming back around. I don't know if I can do round 2. I know this happens every year. I'm not even surprised. It happens every year. We get the fake spring 3 times. And this is, I'm hoping, the final boss of winter. But I'm just so ready for it to be over. And things to just be a little warmer. Because it just feels a little easier. You know what I mean?
It does. It does make life feel a little easier. And maybe, you know what? Actually, now that you mentioned it, I also feel like I've kind of had a weird week where I don't know if it's just, like you said, the snow thing that's making people weird, but I don't know. My work life, fucking chaotic. I was hoping this week would be a little bit more low-key. That never happens. I should stop saying that to myself, actually, because I actually think it makes things worse, is what it does. Because I've just been having to deal with the craziest stuff all week, and I'm I think we all need to take a huge fucking chill pill and do something about this.
I feel so anxious lately already because I don't know if any of our listeners know this, but last year there was the writers and the actors strike, so I was off work for a while. And now there's like these looming like hushed whispers about an IATSE strike, which is like most of our general crew people going on strike. And I'm just like, no, like, please, no, I don't want to do another strike. Like, please, I just want to work.
I definitely don't envy you. I'm happy that at least like it doesn't seem to be an issue that comes up with my industry of work, but I can't even imagine the stress. So it's just like to me, just because I'm speculating on your situation, it's the anxiety of not knowing, like not being prepared and not like
literally,
and yeah, like that kind of stuff. And it's like, well, that's not really fair to the people who are just here to do what they need to do, right?
I know. And like I want people to get a good deal and to be paid fairly and equitably. Obviously, like, I'm in that boat. I'm in the crew. Like, it affects me very deeply. But at the same time, I'm just like, can we please have a break? Like, there's already enough turmoil in our industry of, like, never knowing which job you're going to go on to next, never knowing how long the job's going to be, never knowing, like, there's already so much that's always up in the air that I've just accepted. I've accepted it. I've accepted that I could be off work tomorrow and then get a call 10 minutes later for a new job that they want me to start right now and I have to drive 5 hours away. I've accepted that lifestyle. But
see,
there's parts of it that are harder to accept.
That's very fair. I feel like you already put up with a lot, and I think that asking for a break is, you know what, you're allowed that. I give you permission.
The moral of the story is I really just want things to feel easy for a little while. I feel like I've earned it.
You definitely have, and I at least relate on that front, because like I said, I don't know what's going on, but my work life, fucking crazy all of a sudden. I went from having like manageable days and being able to like, reliably like be able to do certain things and still feel accomplished at the end of the day and not feel like so like burnt out or stressed thinking about like all this upcoming stuff. But now I keep having like things where like it'll be like 10 minutes before the end of the day and then some shit happens where it's like, oh, you actually need to scrounge up almost 50 documents that are all separated and send them to these people, but you need to be careful to not send them to these people. You need to cross-check your numbers. You need to do this. And I'm like, no more. no more.
We're done with that.
No, thank you. No, thank you. I'm trying to think of like, at least if there's anything else other than crazy work life stuff going on for me, but no, I just got my hobbies. I have not read any more of the book that you and I are reading together, even though I want to. I just haven't been in the right, like, headspace for it. But I have been slowly kind of ticking away at a new video game that I started. Red Dead Redemption 2, which was popular like a few years ago. I feel like most people know what it is, but it's my first time playing it. I already am familiar with like the storyline and, that stuff, so it's not coming as like a big crazy surprise to me, but I am enjoying my life as a cowboy and when I'm done working.
I love that for you.
Yeah, well, what I find funny about it, though, is that I can only speculate what other people feel like when they play this game who aren't Canadian and live where we live, because the amount of heritage stuff I've seen that like I'm like I've been there in real life, and it's in the video game, and it's like an 1800s cowboy thing, right? So like shit will pop up and it'll be like, an old not a pioneer village, but like, like an older village of some kind that today we would call a heritage town, or like the old mining place that I told you about that we went to go kind of visit that one time, or at least drive by, like stuff like that. And I'm like, oh my God, I've been here before. Or like it's like hunting in the wilderness, and it's all stuff that's like here, like rams and cougars and bears and deer. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm like walking in the steps of my ancestors. So like, I don't know what other people feel like when they play this game, but for me, I'm like, oh my God, I feel like
you're fully immersed.
Yeah, I'm like, I've been here before, guys. I'm like, I'm a local.
I live in this game in real life.
Yeah, I'm like rolling up to the general store across from like the hotel with 5 rooms, and I'm like, it's okay, guys, don't worry. I know the way. I've been here before. I'm having a great time.
Love that for you.
Yeah, there was fully something else I was going to add on to that, but I can't remember. I'm a little bit tired, but that's okay. Are you ready for the wheel of questions for my story for you today?
Yeah, let's spin.
There we go. Just unplugged my computer by accident, but that's okay. So my question is, what's something creepy but unexplained that happened to you?
I'm trying to think. What's yours while I think of mine?
Usually I'm a lot more prepared than I am today and come pre-equipped with some answers because I do make the questions. But it's one of those things where, because I cover a lot of like similar types of stories, I'm like, what's something I haven't shared at least? Because I feel like I've had a few creepy and unexplained things that have happened to me. But I'm trying to do a favor for anybody who is still listening from like years past who might be like, oh, you told us that before. You guys are like broken records.
Like, shut up about it already. We
get
know.
Over it. Yeah, pretty much. God, creepy and unexplained that happened to me. I don't know if I've shared this one because it's not like the creepiest or most unexplained, because like I said, I'm pretty sure I've covered that in the past already. But I do remember back when I was living in my old house that was like right beside your old house. I did used to have like these dreams, and I've talked about them before because it was kind of like my like come to moment when I was a kid of, oh wow, this is what reoccurring nightmares is and feels like.
Yeah.
Because I used to have these dreams, and it was like every night, dude. It was like, so my sister Abby had just been born, so she was like a baby. And I would have these dreams that like I would be outside in the backyard with her and we would be like digging in the garden or something, but I would pull up like a coffin, and there would be like fabrics sticking out the edge of the coffin. And then once I figure out it's a coffin in my dream, I'm like, oh my God. And then I turn around and there's a giant spider standing over the house, and it starts chasing us. And I have to like run and protect Abby because she's like a baby. And I'm like, no, the spider's going to get us. And then I would like wake up at some point. But the creepy unexplained thing that happened with all that is I remember talking to Mom like way back when we were living in that house, because she'd be like, oh, was it the dream? And I was like, yeah, I found the coffin in the garden again. And so there was like a day where she was like digging in the garden, and she fully pulled up a huge scrap of fabric out of the garden that was covered in blood.
Oh God.
In the spot that I used to have the dreams about Abby and I digging and finding a coffin. So she like found it, talked to my dad about it, and of course I'm like a little bit of a snoop, so I clocked in on what she'd found and where she found it. And she's like, and then they just like they did something with the garden where like they turned that spot into like not garden anymore. They like did something else with it. I think they put down turf or something, but it was just like never brought up again.
Well, that is creepy and unexplained, and
right?
I am terrified for you.
I know, and I'm like, what did I see as a kid that was like, there's something sus about that spot in the garden?
You're just like, I don't like that. I don't like the looks of it.
Well, she was hoping, because I asked Mom about it like many years later, and she said that her hope had been that it might have been like one of the construction workers on the house, like when they were moving around dirt and landscaping and stuff, might have just like gone a nosebleed or something on a handkerchief and like dumped it in a hole. But at the same time, she's like, but I didn't want to keep digging and find anything out, so I just figured that's a problem for somebody else. And I was like,
fair enough. I would
understand.
Probably have moved, but
yeah, right. I was like, fair enough, I guess. All right.
Oh my God. I can't really think of anything. What you said did remind me. I feel like as a kid I did have really vivid dreams too. And I remember I used to have this one dream that there was like beetles crawling on me in the middle of the night. And I remember I woke up once and there was like a beetle on my wall or something. And I was like, I'm fucking so scared right now.
Oh my God, they're everywhere. Get me out of here.
I remember I was like so afraid to sleep in my room after that. I was like, the beetles are gonna get me. My mom was like, it's summer, like you keep your window open, it's fine.
Right. I know, as adults it's funny to look back on that kind of stuff and you're like, man, I was just a chicken shit. And I totally did it to myself, too.
Uh-huh. I know.
Yep.
But I was like, I had a dream about this, and I ain't taking no chances.
And my dream came true, and I'm taking no chances. That's really funny. Well, we can spin for our next question, I guess. I'll take that as an answer. All right, so if you were a ghost, what would you spend your time doing? Like, do you feel like you'd be a ghost that, like, fucks shit up? Or would you, like, haunt, like, a special place? Or, like, what would you do?
I mean, right now, like, I'm just going based on how I'm feeling in this moment. And we just talked about how I'm feeling sad that it's winter.
Yeah.
I would probably get my ghosty ass on a plane and go to, like, a beach somewhere and just, like, relax for the rest of my undead life. I'd be like, I can finally chill the fuck out.
You know what is really funny? The amount of people who just feel the need to be on a beach in like, their waking life. I've never heard of a beach ghost.
Yeah, that would be me. I'm gonna be the beach ghost because I could
finally
relax in my afterlife. Maybe. And if I can't relax, you best bet that I'm going to be fucking shit up. If I can't relax, I'm like, okay, time for all hell to break loose.
See, I feel that. I feel like
everyone will suffer.
Everyone's gonna suffer. I would want to haunt a place where, like, a lot of people go. And it's just kind of interesting. Like, I don't know if it would be, like, a historical place or something. Or, like, you know, one of these types of places. But, like...
Old Town Road.
Yeah. But the ye old town. But, yeah, like... But someplace where there's lots of people. Because, like, my thing is, like, I love the drama. So I would want to haunt a place where, like, I can just kind of, like, people watch. I don't know. Maybe, like, a old airport. I haven't really thought about it. Someplace cool, though. But I definitely...
cool.
Yeah, I definitely relate with the... If I couldn't do what I wanted, though, as a ghost, I would just go straight to haunting my enemies. Enemies. I would... Anybody who had ever...
Torturing my enemies.
Yeah, torturing men, you know. But, like, anybody who had ever, like, affronted me in any kind of way, even if it was, like, a petty thing, they're getting haunted. Like, I don't discriminate.
Yeah, like... You cut me off in traffic, you're on the list.
Pretty much, yeah. Like, I would just be like, no, I got a hit list of, like...
You took the last donut, you're on the list.
Yeah, like, I've got a hit list of, like, 500 people long, and it's all for, like, ridiculous stuff, and they don't know who I am, but they're getting haunted, and that's just how it works.
And now I have eternity to fuck your shit up, and your children's children's children, because...
Multi-generational, yeah, because I have the time.
If I can't be on the beach, well, this is just how it's gotta be.
If I can't be on the beach, that means you're getting tortured, and I don't make the rules. That's just how it goes.
You better hope I can be on the beach.
Pretty much,
far away from here.
Oh god, that's funny.
That's what I want to do right now.
Yeah, I just want to... My need for a beach right now is that I wouldn't even need to get on a plane. I feel like I could physically run there. Like, I have enough... Like, I have enough determination in me where I'm like, nah, I'll just run. I'll make it there eventually.
Right? Like, I'm nearly at that point where I'm like, I'm gonna walk.
Yep. 500 miles all the way to the beach.
I'll float in the ocean and eventually I'll drift there.
Yep. Just on a plank of wood. We'll make it work. All right, let's spin for our next question. Would you want to come back as a ghost? Because some people, like, are like, oh yeah, I would want to spend more time with my friends and loved ones, trying to, like, lead them onto the other side. I don't actually know if I would want to be a ghost when I do eventually, you know, leave my earthly husk.
It's like, I feel like a very similar question to, like, oh, if you could become a robot and live forever, like, would you do it? Like, do you want to be bionic? My answer is no. Like, when I'm done, I'm done. Like, if I've expired, that's it for me. There's
nothing, yeah. I'm okay with,
I don't think I would want to come back as a ghost.
Right? Yeah, no. See, my thing is, like, I wouldn't mind the idea of buying time. Like, if turning into a vampire is a thing, sure. But then I would just walk into the sunlight at 150, you know what I mean? Like, I would at the most maybe want, like, another couple decades, maybe, assuming that I even want to be here anymore. If I'm like 80 and I'm like, man, it's time to go, hell no, do I want to be coming back as a ghost? Are you kidding me?
Well, I mean, I think it also depends on, like, because, like, it's one thing if you're, like, eternally young and in your body with, like, sound mind and relatively good health. It's another if you're just getting older and, like, losing your literal mind and physical ability to do things.
Yeah, I'm just turning into a crazy person. Yeah.
That would be an absolute fucking no for me. But, like, if I could stay forever young and, like, be sound of mind and coherent and everything.
A young, hot, smart ghost? I mean, that would be ideal. But, like, maybe. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
But an old ghost? Absolutely not. So
that was
I guess
my thing, is like,
yes, I'll come back if I'm murdered young or die young somehow.
You're like, I still got time. I have things to do. Yeah. See, I think having a ghost with, like, say, dementia or something, that just sounds terrible. Yeah. No, I'm good. Yeah. Like, once I get old, that's it for me. I've retired from existing. I'm good. Let me go.
Let me have some fucking peace.
All we're saying this episode is we need peace. All we want is peace.
Please, for the love of whatever's good out there.
All right, let's spin for our last question. Whoa. Have you felt haunted by any spirits lately? Or just by anything, I guess. You could be haunted by your past. I don't know. Stuff.
I'm being haunted by winter currently.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And that would count as a haunting because it's like you blink and it's there and you're like, ah!
It is a jump scare.
It's so 100%
scary. A jump scare.
Right?
I don't know. Nothing lately, like, specifically. I did, like, when I was a kid, used to feel like I was haunted. You know, like, my house was haunted. So...
Yeah. Your house was definitely a little spooky, though. So I could see that one.
I still kind of feel that way because, like, my parents still live in the same place. And, like, they're just... Like, I love them and I liked growing up there. But there is an energy. And I'm like, what happened here before we got here, you know?
Specifically in the basement, which it's like, okay, everybody has a creepy basement, blah, blah, blah. But your basement, that's a different kind of creepy.
Extra creepy. And I'm like, maybe it feels extra creepy because as a kid, my parents didn't want me to go down there because I was kind of like their space or whatever. So it was like forbidden in a sense. So maybe that just adds to the creepiness of like, I'm not supposed to be down there. So it feels extra scary. But I don't know. There's bad vibes down there.
Yeah, I would agree. I was going to say, I didn't even live in your house, but I still got creepy vibes from the basement. Even just the stairs, though, like because they connect to your parents' living room. Like, you would hang out in the living room, and I'd always have, like, one eye on the stairs being like, what's going to come from down there?
I know. I remember there's, like, a bathroom that, like, looks like if you're standing in the bathroom door, you can see directly down the stairs. And it always creeped me the fuck out at night, especially if I was, like, home alone. I'm like, I don't want to look down there because, like, I think I'm going to see a face. Like, I think I might actually see something down there.
Oh, 100%, yeah. So that was too much for me. I'm also haunted by your parents' house, I think. Yeah, I definitely am kind of on board with you, though, where, like, I think I felt more that way as a kid more than I do now. If I was to feel haunted by anything right now, I would say maybe it's bad vibes. I'm a little haunted with bad vibes right now, where I'm in a weird place right now where I feel like just enough things are kind of like not going the way that I want to or like how I plan them. Or I'm just not happy with like anything really. But like it's not even like just like me being critical. It's like I'm doing things that I don't really want to do, but it's more out of necessity and I'm kind of mad about it.
Yeah, I have felt that way since the end of 2018. I'm like, things are just not going my way.
Right? And like, it's just like I said, bad vibes. Like, I just don't know if it's maybe like what I'm doing right now just kind of has like an icky energy attached to it or whatever. But like I said, I just don't really feel good about that stuff. I'm waiting for the karma to like turn where suddenly things are going like really good again. because I've really been fighting for my life. Especially these last couple months. Like, whoa, crazy.
Same. I'm getting tired of.
You're like sitting there and you're like, ha 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 ha. Yeah.
Ha ha ha, please just make it a little easier just for a minute.
Just at least for 2 minutes. Yeah, because I would like to be back in a place where I feel like I have a good handle on my life again instead of just being thrown into the wind every single day. Yep. I think that would be nice.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I feel you.
Yep. So that's what I'm haunted by. Oh, yeah, and just because I complained about this in the past, haunted by how expensive everything is, because obviously it's a recession, so that's going to happen, but especially lately, which might just be the bad vibes thing, but I feel like anytime I need something too, like it'll be something I need, like it's non-negotiable that this is something I have to buy, and I'm just mad about it, because then I look at the price and I'm like, are you fucking serious right now? Are you fucking serious right now? Constantly.
I feel like I don't even think we're actually officially in a recession. I think it's like, hasn't even been declared yet.
Don't even tell me that, because it's already rough. I don't need it to be rougher.
Unfortunately, I think that's the way it's going.
Oh, God. All right. Well, based off of the questions I've questioned you with today, are you able to guess what my topic is for you?
Is it my life story?
No, but that would be a fun episode. At least for me. I don't know. I don't know how our listeners will feel, but no, I'm really curious on if. Oh, forget about it. Sorry, my cats are trying to get out. I'm really curious if you're gonna know this story already, or at least a majority of it, because it was quite inspirational.
I genuinely, my head is empty. I have no thoughts.
The Enfield Poltergeist was a claim of supernatural activity at 284 Green Street at a council house in Brimsdown, Enfield, London, England, between 1977 and 1979. The alleged poltergeist activity centered on sisters Janet, age 11, and Margaret Hodgson, age 13. The story attracted press coverage in British newspapers and has been mentioned in books, featured in television and radio documentaries, and also dramatized in the 2016
Conjuring
horror, the film The Conjuring 2, specifically.
Yeah.
So I remembered when I was making these notes, I was like, I really feel like this is one of those movies that you tried to get me to go watch with you back when you were on your, well, you're still on a horror movie kick, but like back then you really wanted me to convert to horror movies.
I've given up on that dream.
It's not going to happen. You're not the only one, by the way. I've had a couple other people be like, oh, but like, it's more of like a historical thriller. And I'm like, I've been down this road. I can't be tricked.
You're like, I know all the tricks, and you're not fooling me.
Yep. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me more than once, shame on you.
It's like when we almost had you buying a ticket to As Above, So Below. Like, so close.
That's literally what one of my friends was telling me the other day. She was like, it's a historical thriller. And I was like, thanks. Yeah, I almost was tricked with that once, but not again. Thank you. Yeah, because it's about the French catacombs and stuff.
Yeah, it's about like a group of people who get trapped down in the catacombs and paranormal things happen.
See, and the worst part for me is I just don't like the idea of being trapped underground. I've also been seeing way too many videos recently about people who go caving, which is a stupid idea. Don't know why anybody would do that. And the catacombs are just, the next step. You might as well be a mole person.
Yeah, I've weirdly heard a lot of people lately talking about hobby tunnelists, which is people who tunnel as a hobby.
Yeah, I really thought that was a joke. When I first saw that come up, I was like, oh, yeah, people, hobby tunneling. Yeah, as if anybody would take a shovel and make a hole in the ground and go in there. That's hilarious. And yeah, it turns out it's a real thing. You ain't ever gonna catch me doing that. If I look at you one day and I say I've taken up a hobby of tunneling or caving in any kind of way, I have been kidnapped and replaced with a clone. Because that is just not it. That is not a thing.
You're like, I'm dead. My brain's been replaced.
The one you knew, the Emily you knew, gone. Because she would never, ever, not even entertain the idea.
That's fair. but she does yearn for the mines. I know that for a fact.
My mine yearning is over after our most recent trip to the mines. That was a little too deep underground for me, a little too intense. A little too close to caving, in my opinion.
Oh, I thought it was good.
It was fun. It was fun because I was with you. I would never do that by myself.
That's fair.
Right?
All right. Well, tell me about the plot of The Conjuring 2.
Yes. So the reason that this kind of blew up the way that it did is because this is what people kind of call the British sensation as far as like poltergeist paranormal stories go. For a while, there'd already been kind of stuff from like America where people were like, "Oh, haunted locations, ghost stories, blah blah blah," and there being like ghost stories
Amityville.
and like there being ghost stories in like say like old castles and buildings in like Europe and stuff like that. But as far as like a poltergeist, like haunting kind of thing, like this was like the first. So this kind of blew up in a big way.
Right.
So here is the story of the Enfield Poltergeist. In August of 1977, single-parent Peggy Hodgson called the Metropolitan Police to her rented home at 284 Green Street in Enfield, London, saying she had witnessed furniture moving around and that 2 of her 4 children had heard knocking sounds on the walls. The children included Janet, who I mentioned earlier was age 11, Margaret, age 13, and a police constable reported witnessing a chair wobble and slide, but could not determine the cause of the movement. Later claims included disembodied voices, loud noises, thrown toys, overturned chairs, and children levitating. Which I love that as far as like note-taking, that was just like snuck right in the end, because as far as everything else is pretty like stereotypical of like a poltergeist haunting, except for the children levitating. I would love to know the why, the how and the why behind that.
Yeah.
Right? Also, just as like a quick refresher for our listeners, the difference between a ghost and a poltergeist and pretty much like anything else kind of paranormally related to this kind of stuff is that a ghost is usually like it's non-aggressive. It's like people see it, but they don't really like engage with it that much. It's kind of like usually when people see ghosts that are like, and basically, they're just kind of reliving a moment in their life, like going upstairs or like calling the dog in. Like, that's a ghost. A poltergeist is a spirit that knows where it is and what's going on, is directly interacting with people who are alive, and they can physically move shit around and fuck everything up, basically. So that's like the main
i.e.
difference.
me if I'm not on the beach.
Yeah, basically, if Jen gets to go to the beach, she's a ghost. If she doesn't get to go to the beach, she turns into a poltergeist. That's how it works, right?
Exactly.
And then, like, I've learned this recently because I didn't really know this, but I guess there's like other classifications of things. So, like, there are spirits that are called like mimics, for example, and like other stuff. But like, as far as like most of the stories that I cover or like have covered, it seems mostly to be about like ghosts and poltergeists. Those are the main ones.
Fair.
Right? And demons are like related but
a whole
different.
Other bag of worms.
Literally a whole other bag of worms. But basically, just from what we know, Enfield Poltergeist, pretty on the nose. This is some poltergeist business. So over a period of 18 months, more than 30 people, including the Hodgsons' neighbors, paranormal investigators, and journalists, said that they variously saw heavy furniture moving on its own accord, objects being thrown across the room, and the sisters seeming to levitate several feet off the ground. Many also heard recorded knocking noises heard and recorded knocking noises, as well as a gruff voice speaking. The story was regularly covered in the Daily Mirror newspaper until reports came to an end in 1979. The Society for Psychical Research, also known as the SPR, members of Maurice Gross and Guy Leon Playfair reported curious whistling and barking noises coming from Janet's general direction. Although Playfair mentioned that paranormal activity was genuine and wrote in his later book, This House is Haunted, The True Story of a Poltergeist from 1980, that an entity was to blame for the Enfield disturbances, he often doubted the children's veracity and wondered if they were playing tricks and exaggerating. So that specifically is something that comes up a lot, especially when people do like either retellings or cover this story, is that there is a lot of belief that the two sisters were just kind of doing this for shits and giggles, because it seems like most of the activity is centered specifically around them two.
Yeah, that's kind of how the movie covered it as well, as like kind of like playing with, is she making it up? Is it real? Like, is it actually happening?
So then, because I haven't seen the movie myself, what was the take at the end of it? Did they play it off as like it being the sisters kind of kidding around, or did they make it like an actual entity?
So, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen The Conjuring 2. So, basically, they set up all these cameras so that they can catch it, and they see that Janet is faking it. So, Ed and Lorraine Warren leave, and then they're on this train. Ed's re-listening to like some recording, and he realizes that she was doing that because the demon told her if she didn't make them leave, then it was gonna like kill her. So then they rush back, and then they have their final battle with the demon to get rid of him.
Spooky. So it's like a
so
little
she
bit of
really
both,
was she really was being possessed by a demon or whatever.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, for a scary movie, I imagine it has to be a somewhat scary ending. I don't think they'd be like, nah, it was a hoax at the end, and be like, hope everyone had fun.
Have you ever heard of like or seen The Nun from that universe?
I've heard of it. I have not seen it.
So that's where that comes from. The nun demon is what's like involved in that part of it.
Neat. Yeah, I don't know. I'll need to look up one day maybe what The Nun is inspired by, or if it's inspired by anything, but yeah, I was just curious because I was like, yeah, I haven't seen the movie, so I wonder if that was kind of like a thing that came up or not, which makes sense.
Is, yeah.
So still, Gross and Playfair believed that even though some of the alleged poltergeist activity was faked by the girls, other incidences were genuine. Other paranormal investigators who studied the case included American demonologists Ed and Lorraine Warren, big surprise there, who visited the Enfield house in 1978 and were convinced that the events had supernatural explanation. So Ed and Lorraine Warren, I've 100% talked about them in another haunting episode that I did, because they were all over that shit, like especially in like the 70s, 80s, 90s. Like if there was a house that came up like anywhere in America or Europe or whatever, like they were in on it and investigating. Like they come up a lot.
Yeah. I think I even did an episode on them a while ago.
Probably, because they're very like controversial, I guess, for people who are like either really, really like them or really, really hate them for some pretty interesting reasons. I'm pretty sure you have covered them, because I remember being a little surprised about certain things.
Yeah, I feel like most people's like consensus on them is they either think that they're like actual paranormal investigators, or they think that they're full of a bunch of hoo-ha and are total frauds.
Yeah. The fraud thing does come up a lot. But yeah, Ed and Lorraine Warren were in on this, and they basically, their reports all say that it has a supernatural explanation. So Janet was detected in trickery. A video camera in an adjoining room caught her bending spoons and attempting to bend an iron bar. Gross, I'm just going to say Gross instead of gross because that sounds a little nicer. Gross had observed Janet banging a broom handle on the ceiling and hiding his tape recorder. According to Playfair, one of Janet's voices, whom she called Bill, displayed a habit of suddenly changing the topic, which was also a habit that Janet had. Hilarious. When Janet and Margaret admitted to pranking the journalists, Gross and Playfair compelled the girls to retract their confessions, and the two men were mocked by other researchers for being so easily tricked, basically.
Gotcha. You got had by two little girls.
Yeah, by two preteens. And I do think it's funny, though, that they had to know it and be like, it was hilarious because Bill had this really interesting habit of changing the topic, and Janet also had that same habit. And it's like, yeah.
Bill was the main subject of the movie.
Okay. Neat.
Yeah.
Psychical research Renee Hayes noted that the doubts were raised about the alleged poltergeist voice at the SPR conference in Cambridge in 1978, where video cassettes from Enfield were examined. SPR investigator Anita Gregory stated the Enfield case had been overrated, characterizing several episodes of the girls' behavior as suspicious, and speculated that the girls had staged some incidents for the benefit of journalists seeking a sensational story. John Beloff, a former president of the SPR, investigated and suggested that Janet was practicing ventriloquism. Both Beloff and Gregory came to the conclusion that Janet and Margaret were playing tricks on the investigators. So this is just like a continuation of why so many people think this is like a huge fucking hoax. And also the SPR, they're kind of like the big dogs in like paranormal studies and investigations in the world, I guess. So they're like a massive organization that's been like studying this stuff and trying to look up like legitimate things and disproving illegitimate things so that they can document them and stuff and study them and that kind of thing. And basically the investigators that like were in on this case were like, yeah, there's enough that's a little hoax-ish, a little bit of trickery.
So I don't think it's true.
So Milbourne Christopher, an American stage magician, briefly investigated the Enfield occurrences and then failed to observe anything that could be called paranormal.
A stage magician?
Yeah. Well, everybody's got to get in on this, right?
That's the expert in this case.
Yeah, literally. Well, it's funny because I honestly thought about this like when I was like making my notes, and I was like, it kind of checks out that like if everybody's being like, oh, is this a paranormal thing or is this tricks? A fucking magician would be like, well, as the expert in this case, you know, like it kind of checks out. Because he's like, if the girls are doing tricks that nobody else can see, I want to know what it is.
He's like, I'm going to add them to my routine.
Yeah, he's like, this is a business trip. This is a work trip.
How do I levitate? That's what I want to learn.
Yeah, he's just like them, and he's like, hey, I understand you guys know trickery. How do you manage to make this one work? Right?
I'm sure that's exactly how that went.
I'm positive. So, he, however, was dismayed by what he felt was suspicious activity, specifically on the part of Janet, who later concluded that the poltergeist was nothing more than the antics of a little girl who wanted to cause trouble and who was very, very clever. So that was the magician guy, right? So then afterwards, ventriloquist Ray Allen visited the house and concluded that Janet's male voices were simply vocal tricks. So then they had to call in the ventriloquist to come in and study her and be like, is this a demon voice? Or is this ventriloquism? Which again, hilarious.
Conclude.
Yep, and he concluded that it was ventriloquism. There was not really a man named Bill in there.
She's very talented. I wonder what she's doing now.
Right? So then, skeptic, Joe Nickel of the U.S.-based Committee for the Scientific Investigation of the Claims of the Paranormal, also known as CSI-COP, so CSI Cop, hilarious, examined the findings of paranormal investigators and criticized them for being overly credulous. When a supposedly disembodied demonic voice was heard, Playfair noted that, as always, Janet's lips hardly seemed to be moving, and he states that a remote-controlled still camera, the photographer was not present in the room with the girls, timed to take a picture every 15 seconds was shown by investigator Melvin Harris to reveal pranking by the girls. He argues that a photo allegedly depicting Janet levitating actually shows her bouncing off the bed as if it was a trampoline.
Yeah, that's the picture I've seen. It's like the iconic photo from this case.
Pretty much, yeah. So Harris then called the photo examples as common gymnastics and said it's worth remembering that Janet was a school sports champion. They're basically like, how did we get here? The girl is a gymnast who's also a ventriloquist and is smart.
And a magician.
And a magician, and she done fooled all of you. Like, it's just so funny the amount of experts they've had to call in to get to look at the kids and at the house and be like, the only spooky thing here is this little girl. Like, it's just this 11-year-old girl. Yeah, it's so funny to me. Like, I just can't believe that that's how it, like, snowballed. But anyway, so she also does gymnastics, which we know. And Nickel pointed out that a tape recorder malfunction that Gross, or what was the nice thing I said? Gross? I think it's Gross. Attributed to supernatural activity, and SPR president David Fontana described as a occurrence which appeared to defy the laws of mechanics, was a peculiar threading jam occurring with an older model reel-to-reel tape recorder. He also said that Ed Warren was notorious for exaggerating and even making up incidences in such cases, often transforming a haunting case into one of demonic possession. So this is basically them being like, yeah, we found that the one tape recorder they used is faulty, and Ed Warren, knowing that, just went in and was like, no, this is a sign of demonic possession, even though, like, this particular type of camera, like, had this kind of issue pretty regularly, I guess. So they were like, wah, fail on that one.
Not this time, Ed.
Not this time, Ed.
Go back to Amityville.
Yeah, get back into Amityville. So then, in 2015, Deborah Hyde commented that there was no solid evidence for the Enfield Poltergeist. The first thing to note is that the occurrences didn't happen under controlled circumstances. People frequently see what they expect to see, their senses being organized and shaped by their prior experiences and beliefs. So that, in its short, is just, she's saying that people are easily manipulated by things that they don't understand.
Yeah, it's kind of what I feel as well.
Yeah. So then, skeptics have argued that the alleged poltergeist voice had originated from Janet, was produced by false vocal cords above the larynx, and had a phraseology and vocabulary of a child. Which I've tried deciphering what that means, and the only thing I could figure out is that they basically are like, oh, she was utilizing different vocal cords, but the phrases that she used and like the way she formatted her sentences was still like the way of a child, so there's no way it could have been a grown man named Bill talking, unless he used the same vocabulary that like an 11-year-old might.
Yeah. In the movie, they apparently this was like one of the true facts of the story, was that there was a chair in the house when they moved in, and the guy who used to live there, Bill, died in the chair. And that's where Janet, whenever she sat there, would do the Bill voice.
Interesting.
I don't know how true that is, but that's what the movie taught me.
I do not remember that from my notes. So if it is true, I mean, it could be. I have no idea. But yeah. Weird. It's so many weird things. Yeah, and I don't really understand what a false vocal cord is. It just, to me, seems like another way of saying altering your original speaking voice.
Yeah.
So then, in a television interview for BBC Scotland, Janet was observed to gain attention by waving her hand and then putting her hand in front of her mouth while claiming a disembodied voice was heard. During the interview, both girls were asked the question, how does it feel to be haunted by a poltergeist? Janet replied, "It's not haunted." And Margaret, in a hushed tone, interrupted, "Shut up." So skeptics have regarded these factors as evidence against the case. Which is fair. That does not feel very compelling.
Mm-mm.
So then, as a magician experienced in the dynamics of trickery, Nickel examined Playfair's account and contemporary press clippings. He noted that the supposed poltergeist tended to act only when it was not being watched, and concluded that the incidents were best explained as child pranks. Though Gross made tape recordings of Janet and believed no trickery was involved, the magician Bob Cauty, so another magician, said, "He made some of the recordings available to me, and having listened to them carefully, I came to the conclusion that there is nothing in which I heard that was beyond the capabilities of an imaginative teenager. All of the recordings have been catalogued and digitized by the SPR, and a book of their content, the Enfield Poltergeist tapes White Crow, was produced by Dr. Melvin Willen in 2019. A 2016 article by psychology professor Chris French in Time Out magazine described 5 reasons why he believes that this case is a hoax. His reasons are that, number 1, the two sisters admittedly evolved to hoaxing some of the activity. 2, The photo of Janet levitating above the bed could just as easily be explained as Janet jumping, which we already talked about. 3. The spirit of an old man who supposedly possessed Janet took a great deal of interest in menstruation. 4. Eyewitnesses are notoriously unreliable. And 5. Other schoolgirl pranks before and after have gotten out of hand for them. So, first of all, his reasoning, I get it, but it's also hilarious that those are like his top 5.
Yeah.
And the fact that he had to include, too, that this like old man had an interest in menstruation, that was weird to him, is such a funny thing to bring up, because that is 100% true. An old man gives zero shits about a woman's menstruation. At least in my experience. Men in general don't want anything to do with it, usually. Or they don't care.
I don't want to hear about it. Don't talk to me.
Yeah, like that's been my, experience with that kind of stuff anyways, is that men stay like 100 feet away from that kind of topic of discussion. Whereas like apparently this old man Bill was very curious. He had many questions about menstruation for people.
So speaking of Bill, I looked it up, and apparently, okay, so the movie was to some degree inspired by audio tapes of the real Janet. In the recordings, she can be heard conveying a message via an eerie voice, which is supposedly Bill Wilkins, a man who had actually died in the living room of the house several years earlier. So, like, this man actually did die in this chair.
So then, does it say anywhere that they knew that moving into the house, or is this something that they figured out after living there?
It doesn't say, but I feel like they probably figured it out after. And it says, just before I died, I went blind, said the voice. And then I had a hemorrhage and I fell asleep and I died in the chair in the corner downstairs. So that was apparently what Janet said in the recording.
See, that's a little weird, though. Like, everything else aside about this stuff that, like, to me does feel a little bit hoaxish, like, that's still a pretty weird thing to say. Mm-hmm. Unless she knew already because she heard her mom talking about it with somebody at some point, being like, there was this old man named Bill who had a heart attack in a chair and died. Crazy. Downstairs. Yeah. That's the only thing I can think of.
And who knows, right? Like, they could have known.
This is true.
Or they could not have. We don't know.
We don't know. But, yeah, I'm just going to go over some of the pop culture references that this case inspired, though, for you, because I imagine most people are going to be like you and be like, The Conjuring, but apparently there's a few other ones where it's kind of snuck into today's world.
All right.
So, on the 26th of December, 1978, BBC Radio 4 broadcast the documentary The Enfield Poltergeist by BBC reporter Rosalind Morris. Morris visited the Hodgson family on numerous occasions to make this documentary. So, like I said, 1978, that's like one of the earlier coverings of this and probably launched some of the rest of the stuff. So, yeah. Then in 1992, the BBC aired a controversial mockumentary titled Ghost Watch, which was written by Stephen Volk and was based on the Enfield Poltergeist, which I've never heard of it. So, I don't know.
Me either.
In March of 2007... Channel 4 aired a documentary about the Enfield Poltergeist titled Interview with a Poltergeist. Then the Enfield Poltergeist has been featured in episodes of ITV series Strange But True, The Extreme Ghost Stories. The Enfield Poltergeist was the subject of the 2015 Sky Living television series The Enfield Haunting, which was broadcast from 4 to 17 May of 2015. Then, in 2016, film The Conjuring 2, based on Ed and Lorraine Warren's investigation of the case, came out. Then in 2018, the BBC Radio 4 program The Reunion, presented by Sue McGregor, revisited the case with interviews with witness Morris, Richard Gross, and Graham Morris. So then, in 2023, a play titled The Enfield Haunting was announced, starring Catherine Tate, to be premiered at the Theatre Royal, Brighton and Richmond Theatre before moving to the Ambassadors Theatre in London from the 30th of November 2023 to the 2nd of March 2024. And on October 27th of October 2023, Apple TV debuted the Enfield Poltergeist miniseries, filming the documentary in a recreated set of the allegedly haunted house at 284 Green Street, utilizing actors lip-syncing to original tape recordings, archival video footage, and modern-day interviews with living witnesses of the events. Woo! All right, well, that was the story of the Enfield Poltergeist. Woo!
Wow.
So how are you feeling? Do you feel the way that most people feel about it being a hoax? Or are you kind of on team like there's some spooky around here? What are you thinking?
Based on the information you provided, I kind of feel like it's a hoax, but I was looking up Janet really quickly there, and I don't know, I feel kind of bad for her. Like, I feel like she's really sticking to her story, like, still to this day. And she said that her mom disowned her, and this, like, really put a fork in her family life and, like, with her friends, and she got bullied in school. So I feel bad.
That's so sad. Because here's my thing. I feel like if I was a kid and this all came out and everything, like, it would be weird to me to have her stick to her guns instead of just being like, of course it was a prank, like if it actually was a prank. So I kind of do wonder if there was maybe something more to it, and maybe because people also don't really want some things to be true sometimes, so maybe they just kind of explain certain things away, or, you know, whatever.
For sure. Also, like, not saying that it's not possible, but it is weird for a kid to be like that good at ventriloquism or like magic tricks when she seemingly had no training.
Well, that was also weird to me. So, like, even earlier when I was laughing about it, like, haha, they had to phone in, like, 2 magicians and a ventriloquist at the same time. It's like, Kate, again, it's like a couple of girls, 7 to 11, like, not that old. And they were apparently so convincing they had to phone the experts in. Like, that, to me, also kind of feels a little weird.
It's true. Like, the fact that they were able to, like, trick some people, but, like, I don't know. It's weird. I feel like it's a hoax, but also it's suspicious for sure.
My theory that I have just kind of like is, I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think a lot of the stuff they did maybe were hoaxes, like after it got to be a little bit more popular, but maybe there was something in the house. It just wasn't as like dramatic as kind of what they made it out to be. You know what I mean?
I could see that.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. I was interested to see what you thought, because I know you've seen the movie too, which does take into, because I know Ed and Lorraine Warren, they like kind of helped, I guess, with like the movie a little bit, where they kind of like were open to like, I don't know if it's like suggestions or whatever, but I knew that they were involved in some kind of way, so I was a little curious on kind of like how it all pans out between what we have for the facts and kind of how the movie made things look.
It's definitely very pro Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that kind of makes sense. If they're working on a movie, they wouldn't want anything to make them look bad, I think. But I guess I could be wrong.
Who's to say? I mean, Janet apparently was also involved in the making of the film, so...
Oh, okay.
And it was also very pro, like, it was real, so I feel like it was definitely a biased film.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it makes sense, but I'm going to say something in the middle where there was probably something spooky happening that was unexplainable, but if it was to the point where children are levitating and speaking and they're actually an old man who wants to know about menstruation, I have some questions.
I do too, but I feel like that brings us to the end of your tale today.
It does, and thank you all for sticking around. It's not quite as in-depth as some people go, because I didn't want to... I do really like covering ghost stories, but I'm not going to go as far as to say, like, you know, clearly all these things are true, when there are more than likely a few things that are a little bit exaggerated. But yeah, I wanted to do a little fresh take, and that is the end. So if you liked today's episode, you can email us at wheelofcrime@gmail.com, and if you like our podcast, again, because you know we gotta check, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, all at Wheel of Crime, or I guess X, because nobody uses Twitter anymore. It's X. So you can follow us on X at Wheel of Crime.
But you still tweet.
Huh?
It's still called a tweet on X.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, weird. All right. They can have that, I guess. Weird to me. But yeah, you can do that. And then also, we have our website, which is www.wheelofcrime.com if you want to check us out on there. We have our Patreon, which is Wheel of Crime at Patreon if you want to donate to the show. You can listen to us pretty much anywhere, I think.
We're on all the places.
Yeah, I can't really think off the top of my head of anywhere we wouldn't be. But I mean, if you listen to us on Apple Podcasts and you feel like branching out, we're also on Spotify. Those two I know for sure, so that's an option as well.
So write us a review.
Yeah, so do that, please. 5 stars, because we feel like we deserve it, kind of, sometimes. And then we also have our Google Doc, which, as we now say regularly, we keep up for any submissions that people may have, people being you. If you listened and you were like, man, I got a story that relates to this, or, oh, I have a poltergeist in my house, like our lovely listener who wrote into us last time telling us her poltergeist story, then you can totally upload it to the Google Doc, and we will share your guys' stories on our next listeners episode whenever it's coming up. So, like I said, you find something interesting or something to share, crime, supernatural, whatever it may be, write in, let us know. Let's get rockin' and rolling.
Yeah, that's it. That's all. And we'll see you next week for another new episode. Okay, bye.
Bye.